What's up, wrestling fans? WWE Hell in a Cell just went off the air. This is Top Rope Nation episode 74. I'm Ryan Drosty, as always, joined here by my guys Kyle Ross and Justin Joint. We're here to break down what I thought was a pretty damn good pay-per-view overall. Now, the ending maybe left a little bit to be desired, but first off, I'm going to throw it out to my guys and ask them what they thought of the show. I'm going to ask you guys, just like we did on Twitter, at Top Rope Nation, to give this show a grade. So grade it A, B, C, D, or F. I'm going to go out to Crosstown here in the great state of Iowa to Mr. Justin Joint. Justin, what would you grade the 2018 edition of WWE Hell in a Cell?
For the entire show, I'd give it a B, maybe a B plus. I thought the first 2.5 hours was an A or A plus. And then for me, it kind of went off the rails. Just never in a million years would have I guessed that Jeff and Randy would have a better Hell in a Cell match than the main event.
That is true.
That is true.
Kyle, what do you think?
I think this is going to be pretty much a universal take, not on this show, just on this show, but the internet as well. Yeah, it was trending to a well above average show, and then the main event hit, and the main event was very, very bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what would you get? What would you give it, A through F?
Oh, that's right. God bless you for forcing me to play the game. B.
B?
Yeah.
Solid B.
Yeah. If you have to choose one of the letters, I don't know if you want to do minuses and stuff, maybe B minus. It was definitely above average show. I get that maybe, obviously the main event finish was horrible, and I get that people might have some issues with some of the other finishes being inconclusive, but going in, I did not expect this to be a blow-off heavy show. Yeah. Now, I also did not expect a lot of what I saw in the last 15 minutes either, but we'll probably get to that pretty soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would come in at sorry,
we're live, brother.
I was making sure the stream was working because on my iPad the stream is not showing. So we're live on YouTube right now. So I was going to our Twitter page and then I hit the play button to make sure it was working, and so then I heard Kyle repeat himself, so I wasn't sure what was live. So we're back, we're live, we're doing the shit live, and
let's do it live.
I think I would give it probably a B, but I was teetering on an A there for most of the show. I thought overall this broadcast was really damn good up until the main event. I was really pleased, especially through the first few matches and even the kickoff show. I don't know if you guys saw the SmackDown tag team title match on the kickoff show. A lot of times I missed the kickoff show, but I did see this one, and I thought it was a really good match. And the New Day retained, but the crowd was really with it throughout, with Rusev Day and wanting them to win. Kyle, what did you think of that match?
Yeah, it was good. New Day continues to strengthen their case for best WWE tag team of all time. And a lot of people I saw afterwards were like, great match, wrong team won. Are we going to start here and just work our way to the main event then? As we book this live, or?
Well, we can start right with the main event if you guys want. We talked about that off here.
Okay, I can just spit my thoughts out, I guess, here on this while we're with the idea that Rusev Day should have won. As I think all kind of talked about, I know I mentioned it, and I think we all were in agreement. We think they're still going through with this Rusev Day breakup. The match being on the pre-show, pretty much guaranteed. They would not be changing the titles, or they wouldn't be doing the breakup angle. That's probably going to be safe for SmackDown. And Ryan, you on the last program, we got into a little bit of a tiff where we were talking about declarative statements. I was like, you make too many declarative statements. And then we were getting into that. I'll make a declarative statement for you coming from me. It's not really a hot take, but I'm not in the hot take business. I'm in the correct take business. Okay. Here's a correct take. Rusev absolutely should have won the United States title in New Orleans, Louisiana at WrestleMania 34. And why am I bringing that up now? Because I feel people would be more satisfied with the Rusev Day run. Because I think there's going to be a lot of angst towards this breakup angle. I can already sense it coming. But if you had given Rusev a decent run with the U.S. title, I think people would have felt more satisfied with this. And, he could have lost to an Almas or a Nakamura. And I also bring that up because, look at what the U.S. title has kind of been since WrestleMania. I mean, the Jinder Mahal run was bad. Jeff Hardy, not much. Nakamura, he just, he wasn't even on the card. So that didn't mean much. But I think if looking back, I don't judge things a lot of times till about 6 months after the fact. We're about 6 months after that. Man, you can't tell me a Rusev U.S. title run would not have been better in a lot of facets.
Yeah. Are you in agreement, Justin, with that one?
Yeah, definitely 100%.
Yeah. We all talked about just being in New Orleans that weekend and how over Rusev was. Yeah. And yeah, I would 100% agree. So we're going to talk about the whole show here.
One more thing before we get to jump to the main event.
Okay.
I think some people, if they want to criticize me, and you feel free to always direct your tweets at the show on Twitter, I'll take them. But the idea of, you can't do babyface versus babyface. That's why they turned Braun heel. I was kind of talking about that from WWE's perspective, not mine. But, and some people might say, they did babyface versus babyface here. What do you got to say about that? Well, I think the difference is they don't necessarily care about protecting the Rusev Day Act. Again, true. I'm not defending it. This is WWE's perspective, not my perspective.
Yeah. All right, so if you guys are just tuning in, thanks for joining us. Let us know what you thought of the show in the chat box to your right there on YouTube. If you're listening on demand, thank you for checking out our Hell in a Cell post show. Leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes. That really helps us out. If you're on YouTube, subscribe and spread the word here about Top Rope Nation. Our last post show last month for SummerSlam was a record-breaking live show for us. We'd like to keep that momentum going. Now, as we talk about what happened here in the main event, we're going to start with that because that's where most people's interest lies. So Justin mentioned he never would have guessed that Orton and Hardy would have a better Hell in a Cell match, and I would have to concur on that point. I actually thought the opening match was pretty damn good. The closing match, not so much. And I think when we talked about this in the preview show, we kind of wondered where they would go, to protect Strowman, but to keep the belt on Roman. And we thought McIntyre, Ziggler, the Shield would get involved. And then this afternoon, word broke that Brock Lesnar was in San Antonio for the show. So at that point, you kind of started to think something screwy is going to happen. And so for me personally, like we alluded to a second ago, I really did not care for the booking of this main event. We talked, actually, as luck would have it, we talked about kind of like schmaz finishes on our last show. We talked about DQ finishes in particular.
Yeah, I know. I can hear my buddy Chad. Well, by the way, what'd you think about that finish, asshole?
Well, this was a pretty crappy finish because we got crappy. Nothing, right? Like Lesnar comes in, destroys Strowman and Reigns, who, had already been kind of taken out for a long period of the match. And that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
Like all this stuff's happening on the outside with the Shield and Ziggler and McIntyre. They climb to the top. And for several minutes, Strowman and Reigns, these unstoppable forces, are laid out in the middle of the ring. Nobody's doing anything. We finally get Brock Lesnar coming.
And there hadn't even been a huge bump to cause it. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Reigns had speared Strowman through a table, I guess. But the way they've trained their audience, that does not lead to 15 minutes of laying around.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to have a pretzel rod right now, by the way.
Go for it. No, it's I didn't care for the finish. The live crowd hated it. It was pretty silent. This crowd was kind of hit or miss. They got into some of the matches, in particular the Raw tag team match, which I think we're probably all going to agree was the best match of the show. But at the beginning of this match, they're kind of into it, and then throughout, not a lot. They got into it when the Shield and Ziggler and McIntyre came out. But that was a really crappy finish. Like it's the Hell in a Cell gimmick, and you end with a no contest. I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, and that's pretty unforgivable.
They had a really easy out too. I mean, they had Lesnar do an F5 on Roman onto Braun Strowman. Just like have that be the pin.
The finish. I thought that was going to be the finish for sure. You're right. I'm glad you caught that.
That's lame too, but it's not as bad as having a no contest in a Hell in a Cell match.
Yeah, I immediately thought, like, is this even possible? Like, can it end as a no contest?
I know when it's again, I'm glad somebody else picked up on that. When Roman was laying there, I thought for sure like Foley was going to crawl back in and make the pin. But when he rolled off of them and they were laying there, I said, "Oh no, don't tell me you're going to a no." a non-finish, just a no con. Just the pay-per-view is going to end. I guess it's kind of weird if you would listen to the show and haven't watched the show yet, but maybe we should just kind of recap kind of how it all went down. Braun and Roman were having a pretty good match. We then saw Drew and Dolph come down, the Shield come down. They battled all around the ring. All 4 guys climbed up on top of the cage, which was cool, except for the fact that Roman and Braun were just like laying in the ring while all the focus was on that. I saw somebody tweet, and I completely agree with them, that if they were sharper about this, they meaning WWE, they could have still had action going on in the ring while that was happening and just gone to a split screen. But I don't think, it was very uncomfortable and just downright silly to have Braun and Roman lay there while the other 4 were brawling atop the cage. As cool as that was, then came the predictable bump from Seth and Dolph. Little choreographed, I thought, like with them both. Like it didn't come across like totally great. Like it was both kind of like, "Are you ready to jump? 1, 2, 3!" And we jumped to the table. That's
the same thing that him and Dean did. I think 3 years ago at Hell in the Cell.
Good call.
It's the exact same bump.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Good call. And then we get Brock Lesnar showing up, and it was we should give credit where credit's due. Mike Johnson was of PW Insider, is the one who reported that. Crowd was into it with Brock coming out because crowds like surprises in 2018. We know that, but I don't know about you guys. Brock Lesnar being back kind of just made me go,
Yeah, I would agree. Like, why? just stay away for a while.
So I think let's talk about this. By the way, how interesting is it that our whole heated argument we got into, Ryan, like, Braun is a heel, where does this leave him, is like a complete non-factor right now. No one is going to be talking that coming out of the show.
Yeah, that's true.
So let's talk about Brock. Is he still doing UFC? I mean, is that official? Or did he just use them for leverage to get an even sweeter deal from Vince?
Yeah, no, they have not announced the fight. It's just rumored at this point. Like Dana's talked about it, I think, but not as on an official matter. So, I mean, he could change his mind and decide, hey, you know what? I'm just going back to wrestling where I make a crap ton of money and have to work once in a while versus getting into the octagon and actually getting my head smashed in. So,
or did they book themselves into a corner, just throw a bunch of money at them to come in and give them a no contest? And
that could happen too.
Maybe we see Brock again in like a few months.
Okay, that would, all right. Second part of the question. Let's assume they have a storyline set for Brock Lesnar and some semblance of a long-term plan. What is the end point for that long-term plan? I know we're only, a half hour removed from him coming back to WWE TV. I have an idea that actually, I don't know if it necessarily justifies this hideous finish, but I think it would be satisfying in the end.
Okay, let's hear it.
Oh, I think he's going to do a job to Braun Strowman, because I talked about this, how Braun, you're going to need something, an impetus to have him turn back babyface eventually, which is what I think his long-term direction still is. Mm-hmm. And I think, maybe they want him to win the UFC. Again, I don't think, I find it hard to believe Dana White would allow this to happen, like would allow Brock to come in, win the UFC title while he's under a WWE contract, and then they could have Brock lose on WWE television. Like, I don't think Dana would be cool with that at all. So maybe the UFC thing is probably just out the window at this point. We'll wait and hear. Maybe, Meltzer, somebody's got more on that. But I think maybe WrestleMania, perhaps, we see Braun Strowman get a win over Brock Lesnar.
That would have made even more sense then for the F5 to have put Roman on top of Braun for the finish, because then Braun could have he could have more precisely bashed Brock for costing him the title and Roman defeating him. Now it's just like a no contest. Yeah, he's still kind of costing the title, but
they're gonna say that was my briefcase opportunity, even though, I mean, it's Braun Strowman who realistically can be in a title picture anytime. Yeah. So that's what I think. If, sometimes I like to, put my WWE hat on and try to think like them. And I could see that being the destination here.
Yeah.
It gets Braun back as a babyface, which I think we all agree is where he should go. And it's actually a good idea to have Braun Strowman pin Brock Lesnar.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Tyler in our chat room right now says he agrees with you, Kyle. By the way, Kyle,
like
he thinks your name's Brian because your header down there says Brian, but it's just the account he's on. But yeah, that's Kyle.
Yeah.
So Tyler wants to know: did Braun lose his Money in the Bank contract now? I think he did.
Yeah, and that's the storyline again with Brock and Braun. I think moving forward, that you cost me my briefcase, like I just said. That's I can see that being what they do. It's funny because going into the show, I thought doing Roman, as much as this finish sucked, I will say there is kind of one, I don't want to use the word benefit because I don't think really anything's a benefit when you have a bad finish like that. But let's say you had Roman pin Braun, because you weren't doing a title change here, okay?
Are you talking clean without any interference?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, like, it's not a schmoz. What the hell are you doing on Raw for the next 3 months? And because there was some, and again, plans change, quote unquote, but there was some promotional stuff sent out tonight about TLC, which is the December show, where locally they're promoting the main event as Shield versus Braun, Drew, Dolph. And that's December. I think this was a situation where, again, I don't think it's a good idea to have, it's September, it must be time for Hell in a Cell.
Mm-hmm.
I think they kind of booked themselves into a corner with, I think Vince was like, all right, Roman versus Braun on this day in Hell in a Cell is the biggest match we can do. Let's do it. And then everyone else probably raised their hand and was like, well, okay, well, what the fuck is the finish going to be then? I mean, if you beat, we're not changing the title. If we beat Braun, TV for the next 3 months doesn't become very compelling. So they had this Brock thing. That's, I think, their thought process.
Yeah. So it's a textbook situation of booking yourself into the corner.
Yeah. And again, to compare this to, because by the way, my buddy Chad just texted me. And it's like, oh, I hope you thought that finish sucked. And I said, yes, I did. And he doesn't really talk like that. By
Get
the way.
Chad on YouTube. He needs to be watching live.
Chad, get on YouTube. He might be, but he might be him. He'll use an alias. You think I use fake name? Trust me. But anyway, to compare this to Joe and AJ from SummerSlam, I don't know necessarily if we're getting another big one-on-one match between these two, which makes this weak. Whereas Joe, and we'll talk about the progression of that storyline a little bit later on, Joe and AJ, the finish at SummerSlam, again, middle of the card match, not the main event. Plus, it led to another match where you had a pin. And again, I'll leave that discussion for a little later. But the way that AJ Joe was booked tonight, again, kind of led to a natural progression for the no DQ, no countout match they're doing in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
So that at least makes sense. You may not like DQs, but at least that one makes sense. This one, I think it was just a situation. Well, I wanted to have the two biggest stars wrestle in Hell in a Cell, but oh wait, I have to come up with a finish. Oops. Well, here comes Brock Lesnar.
So again, a handful of you guys joining us in the live chat right now. If you're there, if you're listening, let us know what you thought of the show. Head on over to the live chat room on the right side of the page on YouTube. We'll read your comments on the air. One other thought on that main event, guys. Mick Foley's referee work.
Okay, I think he was. Yeah, people were taking umbrage with that. I think he was supposed to kind of have those.
The first one was pretty bad. Where he counted 3 when Roman was down.
Well, I mean, I thought it was going to be Joey Morella all over again from Hogan Andre.
Starcade 97.
Well, no, please. You want to talk about shit finishes on a pay-per-view main event? We could go be here all night to talk about that. But I thought, and I actually had in my notes, and I just wrote nope next to them, because I thought it was going to lead to something and that's how they were going to protect Braun. Little did I know that Brock Lesnar was, going to do something. Mm-hmm. Despite it being reported, I guess I should have figured. But I thought Foley, because he kept doing it, it kept being close, and I thought that was going to kind of play in where Braun was like, "Oh, I had him all these times," and Mick Foley's a shit ref or something. So I thought that was it was intended, but I don't know, maybe not, because it had nothing to do with the finish. And I think Mick Foley was only there. We were wondering, why is he there? What's he going to do? I think it was just to kind of further hype that documentary, which, by the way, is airing. Oh, no, it isn't airing anymore. I turned the network off on the big TV. But
yeah, I did too. I had it on for a little bit. It was kind of like a stand-up show or something where he was talking about.
Yeah, he's talking about 20 years ago, Hell in a Cell.
No, I think it was just errors on his part. The counts were a little off.
Yeah,
that made for some awkward segments in this minute.
I think they worked around it okay. Like Braun was like yelling at him. The announcers did an okay job covering. I mean, it did. I guess in retrospect now, probably was a gaffe, but I think it was covered up okay.
Yeah. So we'll have to see where they go with this one tomorrow night on Raw. Let's start at the top of the show with the Hell in a Cell match between Orton and Hardy that kick things off. And we've been critical of Randy Orton on this show many times. Jeff Hardy used to be a pretty big fan of his years and years ago. Lately, not as entertained by the old Jeff Hardy act. But I got to say, really good Hell in a Cell match opener. They did a lot of kind of tricks in the match to make it entertaining. The ending bump with Hardy going through the table from hanging from the top of the cell, which we should mention. The Hell in a Cell they've used the last few years is a lot taller than the original Hell in a Cell, like the Mick Foley went off.
And then this one was red. That was a big talking point. Red Hell in a Cell.
I actually wanted to know what your guys' take on that was. Is it? I read online that it was both. They think it's easier to see, and then also it's probably just to sell toys.
I personally, when I first saw it yesterday, and everyone was complaining, I'm like, really, what's the big deal? You'll probably be able to see fine. On the live broadcast, it didn't bother me that much, although I can see why it might bother some people because it's such a bright color, like in your face all the time. I read a lot of comments of people saying that it really hurt their eyes. I didn't really think it made it that much harder to see just because of the way they position the cameras in the ring. But I don't know. It's almost one of those things where why even mess with it? There were some funny tweets about if we're going to get a red Hell in a Cell, you have to bring back the blue steel cage from the past, which I like.
That's
that.
What I
missed that one. I missed the blue steel cage, but I wasn't that bothered by it. But I think if I had to pick, I like the gray one better. What'd you think, Kyle?
A subject matter that's probably going to produce a lot of hot takes. I don't have one. I am completely indifferent to it. Like, I was like, oh, the cage. I missed it, the whole deal last night, apparently. And it was news to me. And I'm like, red cage. All right, I've got to have an opinion on this. And as the match kind of progressed, I was like, yeah, I got nothing. I'm like, to me, it's just a different color. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Outside of now, I really want to match with that red Hell in the Cell with the blue cage inside of it.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It's I don't know. It is what it is. I wasn't that bothered by it, but and gray is just a more neutral color. It's not as distracting. But again, the way they position the cameras and everything, I don't think it was that big of a deal. But that bump that Hardy took was pretty crazy in the opening match, the finish where he hung from the top and he fell through the cage, and then of course the spot where Orton put the screwdriver through Hardy's gauge ear made me wince a little bit.
That was unique.
Yeah. And that's the thing with these Hell in the Cell matches is you want an iconic moment that somebody's going to remember, because that's how a lot of these matches get lost. Is they're just kind of a match inside of a Hell in the Cell, and that's all there is. But that ear spot is something that I'm not going to forget for a long time. Same with, hanging from the top of the steel cage and Randy's back and then his leg at the same time, all the blood there. I thought it was a really well-worked match from both guys.
Shout out to Justin on our @TopRopeNation Twitter account for your gift from The Shining, calling out all the blood. I like that.
Yeah, not a lot of other people did.
I liked it. I appreciated it. But yeah, no, the belt shots, like the studded belt that Hardy wears, those are pretty brutal. Overall, I liked it. It was what it was, I should say. They got the weapons in, they got the high spots in. It went longer than I thought it was going to go. I mean, by the time this match ended, we were like 35 minutes into the show or something. It was a long match, but no real complaints from me. I thought it started the show off on a good foot. Any other thoughts you guys had on that one?
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of echo what Justin said. At first, like the first 10 minutes, maybe even, I was very much wanting to say, well, this was Jeff Hardy wrestling Randy Orton inside a cage. And it's pretty average. But the torture thing, the torture thing with the screwdriver and the bump, we knew Jeff was going to take a big bump here. Did make this memorable. I liked the finish because when the ref started yelling, he's hurt, somebody come on out. And I was like, oh no. And then Randy's like, do your job, pin him or count. And Orton just pinned him. I thought that made Orton come across as more heelish and was pretty damn effective. We should also mention Jeff losing and doing an injury angle, and I'm assuming he's going to take time off. Same night as his brother Matt announced his retirement.
It's true. Yeah. No, there was the delete chant during the middle of the match, and I thought about that from last night where Matt Hardy announced his retirement after the house show Saturday night. So we'll see what happens there. But no, yeah, memorable match. I liked it. Not a lot negative to say on this one. So that started us off, and then right after that, they went to the SmackDown women's match between Charlotte and Becky Lynch. And we talked a lot about this one on our pre-show just a few days ago. We did get the title change here, so Becky Lynch is the new SmackDown Women's Champion. Striking while the iron's hot here with her. She's experiencing more popularity than she ever has in her pro wrestling career, so I thought that was the right decision. The match overall I liked it. It wasn't real long. I liked the finish. The finish kind of came out of nowhere. But Justin, what did you think about this one?
Yeah, it was good. I'm always a sucker for what's the saying? Work a leg and tell, or what, Kyle?
Grab a hold, tell a story.
Yeah, I'm always a sucker for that. Let's work a limb. Although I will say, the one thing that bothers me with that is when they try and tell that kind of story, and in the middle of the match, I can't tell which limb is the one that they've been working, just because of the way they're going through the match. It was good. It was a little sloppy. You can tell their energy was up. They're probably trying to rush things a little bit, but the ending kind of caught me off guard. I don't think it was bad. I think it's going to lead to a much more interesting story.
All right, Kyle, you weren't as big of a fan during the middle of the match, but you liked the finish, right?
It wasn't the finish. It was the way the match was worked. We were talking about this on text during the show. So I'm happy Becky won. I think that was the right call. But my issue with this is it was not worked like a grudge match at all. It was almost worked as a babyface versus babyface match. With the whole, like Justin said, just grab a hold and do stuff. They were trading holds. And as heated as this storyline was, I don't think the match should have been worked that way. I almost felt that if they want Becky Lynch to be a heel, they should have saved the turn for tonight. They could have done that exact same finish where it was, Becky, she just beat her. It was kind of a fluky pin. And then Charlotte, would be like, hey, Becky, good match. I know I lost, but good match. And then Becky turns on her then. I almost wonder if a double turn is coming, if they're going to listen to their audience and actually flip-flop the roles, because Becky came across as pretty badass after the match. Now, Charlotte did get the trademark WWE sympathetic camera shot at the end when she was looking at her unshaked hand. But I wonder if they're going to turn them.
I think that's exactly what's going on. I think they realized at some point that the crowd wasn't going to give up on Becky. And so that's why, and I totally agree with you. If the match should have, the way the story's been told is it should have been a grudge match. It shouldn't have been a hold for hold match. But since that's the way they went, I think it's definitely leading to, a match where Becky or Charlotte's going to win, and then the double turn's going to happen.
Yeah, that was a big rumor tonight, is there was going to be a double turn tonight, but we didn't get that.
I think a big theme of this show, starting with this match, was a finish to set up a rematch. We got a lot of that. And I'm looking here. I'm pretty sure these two are already booked. I don't know if they announced it on TV, but I'm pretty sure locally they've advertised these two are working. Yeah, these two are working in Australia. So, yeah, okay, I get it. These two are going to probably have a lot more matches, but I feel it should have been worked differently from the start. Rather than, like I said, it was worked like they were just trying to out wrestle each other and they were friends. And it was kind of a friendly rivalry, not, my best friend just turned on me. That was my only issue with the match.
Yeah. Comment in the chat room says Charlotte's a natural heel and Becky is a natural babyface, plain and simple. Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. We've been saying that for a while. Yeah. Wow. I mean, as much as people want to bag on Roman Reigns, and I know that's, just the in thing to do when you go to WWE live shows, Charlotte is a much worse babyface than Roman Reigns.
I was going to ask you guys if you saw the tweet that Dustin Rhodes, Goldust, had made around the time of this, right after the match, actually. And I went back, I just went to his Twitter feed and I was looking for the tweet and it looks like he's deleted it. But it was something along the lines of, it was like the smarks aren't as smart as they think they are and don't know how to tell a story. What do you think now? And it was like right after Becky won. And now he's deleted that. So basically he was saying everyone that complained about Becky being the heel didn't know what they're talking about. My first thought was what they did is, it works out. Becky's the champion, but that doesn't mean what they did was the correct decision, because they could have done the exact same thing where Charlotte was the heel, turned on Becky, won the title, and then Becky gets her vengeance as a babyface, and the crowd loves it. So I didn't really get that tweet from him.
Or they could have done what, like I said, they could have just worked this match exactly the way they had without doing the turn at SummerSlam, and then Becky turns here.
Yeah.
I think the issue was, and this is something interesting, when the crowd doesn't get what they want, they very much rebel against the booking. If you give the crowd, the crowd would have been pissed regardless. I don't know if they would have been pissed. Let's say Charlotte had just won at SummerSlam and like Becky kind of just walked off dejected and was very clearly building to a heel turn where it became kind of obvious. I think the whole thing and she still turns heel. I think the whole thing would have worked better that way. Mm-hmm. I think they just kind of misjudged the way that whole setup was laid out going into SummerSlam, where, Becky came across as very sympathetic and Charlotte didn't to their audience. Yeah. They were telling a story. The crowd just wasn't buying that story.
Yeah. It's Tyler in the chat says, I think we get the double turn at Evolution. Dustin,
yeah, that's what I think too. These two are going to probably work both those. Not probably. They almost certainly are going to work both those shows.
Dustin Rhodes on Twitter, he deleted the tweet. Now he wrote, I love the fans. Remember that. You do not have to love me. That's okay. Without y'all, I'm nothing. Thank you to, quote, real fans.
Oh, boy.
So whatever that means. But I guess he cleaned that one up. So
I'm having a good time tonight at the basement, sounds like.
I'm glad Becky won the title. I think it was the right decision. And I like the finish. I like the match. So
yeah. Everyone should go watch a Dustin Rhodes versus Bunkhouse Buck match tonight, I think.
All right. The third match of the pay-per-view was the Raw Tag Team title match, which we mentioned just a minute ago. I think was definitely the best match of the show. A very good contest between Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins taking on the new champions as of recently, just a couple weeks ago, Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler. And Ziggler and McIntyre kept the titles. I think on our pre-show, we all pretty much picked that to happen.
Not Justin this dumbass.
Justin did not. At this point, I should also point out, thanks to our partners over at WrestleRumble.com, we promoted them on our pre-show. Really fun contest. Every pay-per-view, if you head over to WrestleRumble.com, you can buy an entry. They have like prop bets on the show. You can win up to $500. Makes the show very fun to watch. We can speak from experience because we were texting back and forth in our text thread, seeing how all of us were doing. And I was feeling pretty good up until the second half of the show. And then my picks started falling apart. But and Justin didn't pick it, but we talked about this a lot on the preview show for Hell in a Cell, and just that it was kind of early to take the belts off of McIntyre and Ziggler. We thought maybe eventually they want the Shield to have all the titles, and that could certainly still happen.
Yeah. They brought that up in commentary. Yeah, they brought that up in commentary. So, by the end of the year, I think that will be a reality.
Yeah. So, just I guess your initial thoughts on this match and what you thought, Justin.
When it comes to professional wrestling, outside of a baby face beating the heel after a long-term story, just a good long tag team match is as good as it gets for me. It's just that is the cream.
Yeah.
And that's what this was. This was just, you know, we shit on Ziggler a lot. I'm not a big fan, but we had 4 top-notch guys just giving us a great story in this match.
Remember when the Raw tag team division was just completely in the dumps and SmackDown was killing it, and we said Raw could be so much better. Well, now it's so much better.
That was like that was 2 weeks ago.
I know. Now they finally turned the corner.
Yes,
Like they got the belts off the B team, and Ziggler and McIntyre have been a good team, and then you get the Shield involved. So much better. And yeah, this was a great match. I love the way it was just old school, the way they cut off the ring with McIntyre and Ziggler. I think both Rollins and Ambrose got the hot tags at different points in this match where they were in the opposite corner. And yeah, really good match. Kyle.
Yeah. So I'm tempted to go like 4.25 stars on this, but I kind of want to rewatch it because the first half was slow. Now we didn't know that they were going to get 27 minutes, which is how long this wound up going. So I kind of, I do have to admit, like the first maybe third of the match, I wasn't totally engaged, but like the second half was incredible. The finish was like out of this world with Rollins going for the Falcon Arrow and McIntyre catching him with the Claymore kick for the pin.
Oh yeah.
And Dolph falling on him. I thought Drew McIntyre was the star of this match. He did some really cool stuff besides the finish. That part where it was him and Dean facing off and Dolph did this thing with his foot where he's like kind of like drawing a line in the sand. I thought that was cool. And it was freaking great. Right after the Shield had a false tag where the ref didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Drew turns around and makes this huge production of tagging Dolph right in front of the ref's face. I thought that was absolutely fan-frickin-tastic. Drew McIntyre is absolutely outstanding.
Credit where credit's due. Kyle Ross on this podcast has been pumping Drew McIntyre for weeks, and yeah, he was great in this match. I agree. The finish was the superplex from Rollins, and then he rolled through to do another suplex.
Yeah,
and that's where McIntyre jumped in and hit the Claymore kick, and very effective. Very effective.
Yeah. And this was, on a night of kind of roll up finishes. This was not a roll up finish. This was a clean win for the heels, but they obviously got involved in the main event, and we're gonna see this continue.
And it wasn't a roll up, but you had the bonus of Drew carrying Dolph out of the ring.
That was outstanding too.
that was great. Chad in the chat room. I don't know if this is Kyle's friend Chad or another Chad, but
if it's disparaging about me, it is.
No, he just said best Dolph Ziggler match ever.
That's not something my buddy would say.
It's up there.
Nah.
It's one of his better pay-per-view matches, I'd have to say, that I remember in years.
I actually got into an argument with my buddy. Oh, I wonder if this is Chad, because we had this argument the other day. I would still say the match where he put his career on the line against The Miz was the best one.
Yeah, this one I also want to watch again because I was covering it on comicbook.com live, and so I was trying to watch everything that happens, but I'm typing at the same time, and you don't really get to take it in as well, but I loved it covering it, and I might even flip it on again before I go to bed tonight, but it was a good match.
Yeah, I don't think it was, I think it sounds like we're all in agreement that it was match of the night.
Yeah.
It wasn't totally heads and shoulders. I thought the Orton Hardy Hell in a Cell, and then the next match we're about to talk about, Styles and Joe, we're kind of there too.
Yeah, I thought going into Styles and Joe, I was going to say that definitely had a chance to top it. The finish on that one was a little strange, so it kind of takes it down a little bit from this one. I thought that was an outstanding match too. But just because of the finish, I'd have to give the nod here to the tag. And also, I really like that opening Hell in a Cell. I'm in agreement there too.
Yeah, with this Raw tag, to put a bow on it, if they would have trimmed maybe 5 minutes out of that opening third, I think we could have been looking at a match of the year contender. Because I really do. Because like I said, I was not engaged early in this, but then they kind of just kicked it into a high gear and never stopped. Kind of like the SmackDown. I mean, this was obviously given more time, was higher profile, but that SmackDown tag title match on the pre-show, it kind of was like that too, where it was like a slow start. Whatever, this is just a match, and then they kicked it into a high gear with lots of near falls, and it was great.
Yeah,
that match was that's another one that deserves to be mentioned too.
No, I mean, I don't usually watch the kickoff show, but that was on very close to the end of the kickoff show. And it was also, I think, only an hour pre-show this time.
Yeah.
Which was better than watching for 2 hours for a couple matches. And I really like that one too. A lot of false finishes. And in that one, the crowd was really into Rusev Day. So, man, this show overall was really, really good. I like the whole show. We talked about the main event, but overall, man, this is a thumbs up show.
Yeah, so. I think we're about to get to Styles and Joe. I think there was 4 matches. I had 3.5 stars or higher on the show. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah. So Styles and Joe, like I was mentioning a second ago, the finish. We were talking in our text thread. I would have liked to seen this match go just a little bit longer, and they did have the time. I mean, the show ended early.
Just needed it to be 2 minutes longer.
Yeah, that was one of the prop bets.
Clarify that. Yes.
Well, that wasn't the only reason I wanted to go longer, but yeah, one of the prop bets over at WrestleRumble.com was, will this match go 20 minutes? And I actually started a stopwatch because I was like, I don't know. I think it might, because there was a lot of time left on the show. And so as we're watching it, I thought like at the 12, 13 minute, there's no doubt this is going over 20 minutes. And so I did kind of feel like the finish came a little soon. I thought like they were just kind of hitting their stride. The match was getting really exciting. And then we had Joe setting up for the Coquina clutch. AJ flips over him, gets the pinfall.
The old Bret Hart, Steve Austin Survivor Series 96 pin.
Right. And it seems like they've done that finish quite a bit in recent years.
Yeah, I wonder if somebody like on the writing team like watched that match or something like kind of recently. It was like, God, was that a good match? Let's steal that all the time.
Same thing the way, Brett Piper did at WrestleMania 8.
I was going to say,
yes, good point. Yeah, good point.
So Brett did it a couple times, and then this time wasn't out of the corner though.
No, it was off the rope.
Yep, off the ropes. And then they had Joe complaining and about the tap out, and then they showed an alternate angle after the match, which is going to make this feud continue, where AJ tapped out on Joe's arm right before the 3 count. But like logically, this doesn't make any sense. That was my problem with it. Like if he's got Joe,
you want Samoa with Joe to win.
but I mean, like think about it. If this is a real fight, like AJ has him in a pin, he can't wait another second without tapping out. Like it doesn't make any sense.
That's how much the Coquina clutch hurts.
Yeah, I guess, but it
man could think. I mean, look, they're going to do this, and Justin hit on it in our text thread perfectly. Look, and they've already done it, actually. To be honest, they've already taken it. They didn't even wait for SmackDown. Joe said, I won. That's not fair. I should be the winner. And Paige has given him a no DQ, no count out match for Australia.
Well, it should have been in the Hell in a Cell. Should have been a Hell in a Cell match, possibly.
No.
We talked about that on the preview shows. Heading into the event, we all wanted this to be a Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, well, now I know why it wasn't, because this was not a blow-off. To be honest with you, given the booking of tonight, the match that did, in fact, make the most sense to get Hell in a Cell was Randy Orton, Jeff Hardy, because it was a true blow-off. That feud's over. I mean, other than Ronda and Alexa, there was no blow-off on this show. And Hell in a Cell's a blow-off match. It should never be a this feud must continue match. So, given that AJ and Joe must continue, it was, again, positioned in the middle of the show. I guess I'm not surprised in retrospect, with the benefit of watching the match unfold, that it wasn't Hell in a Cell. I did not have a problem with the length personally. I think Australia will be the blow-off. Obviously, if it's no DQ, no count out, that lends itself to a blow-off style match. And I know we got into some discussion, and I'd like to follow that up here about, the WWE title picture here, and, should Joe be the champ or whatever. And I said, I just don't think WWE sees him in that role. Another thing to consider is AJ as the babyface kind of has to win this feud, because they're doing like the family honor storyline. They can't have him like coming up short, when the man's family's been insulted. And apparently that really resonated with the folks Justin Joint was watching this show with, who understand the power of family, as he let us know.
It's true.
Yeah. I was watching with my my mother-in-law and her boyfriend. completely non-wrestling fans. They just happen to be sitting here, and at one point the boyfriend was even like, I don't know, that Samoa Joe needs to lose. I want to see him cry. He needs to respect family values. It was good stuff.
So Joe really though hasn't gotten one over on AJ in this feud. Unless you consider the visual win tonight. But AJ beating the crap out of him at SummerSlam and that finish. Here, AJ getting the pinfall victory, then AJ beats him again at Super Showdown.
Yes.
Well, yeah, but technically Joe won tonight.
Well, that's what I'm saying, the visual victory, but he didn't actually win. Yeah.
And you may have missed it. It was very quick, but after the match, they were showing all the replays, and they had a moment where they had the camera on AJ, and he had been watching the replays, and there was a look of dejection when he realized that, yeah, he had tapped before he got the pin. So that's where the story is going to be.
Yeah. And look, I mean, Joe's the heel. I mean, he has gotten the upper hand in the feud in all the storylines. Like, he's choked AJ out multiple times on TV. I just don't see them viewing him as the champ. And this now kind of, I was texting, you're like, I know you kind of were still keeping the faith that he might win in Australia. And I told you, man, I don't even think there's a 5% chance Samoa Joe wins in Australia.
That's harsh. I think that's harsh. I think there's still a chance.
I think we will, you know what, I'll save the discussion because I forgot that the Mazanins, Justin, are you wrestled the Danielsons after this. And I think we should talk about the scenarios after we talk about that match.
Yeah, well, that's a logical segue because we talked about that in our preview show and where the WWE title's going. And if they keep it on AJ and Bryan wins, they could do that Bryan AJ match right away, or the Miz could win and get a run with the title. But that brought up a whole nother discussion on if they actually see the Miz as a world champion. And I think they see Joe more as a world champion than Miz at this stage. Otherwise, Miz would have gotten a title run in the last 2 years.
He's gotten a lot better in the last 2 years, though. The Miz.
When we were doing this podcast 2 years ago, we were talking about how he was the MVP of SmackDown.
Miz has a high-profile TV show now, too.
Yeah, well,
the ratings have really tanked on that show, though.
Damn it. That's fine. But no, hold on. So the Miz was actually kind of dead in the water before Maurice came back, which was after that WrestleMania in Dallas. And then, you're right. When we started doing the show is when he had really started to get good. He was do you know what's sad is I don't even remember if it was the IC or the US title at the time that he held.
I see. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, he had that and he was getting good. So we'll talk about this because I think there is an argument whether or not they see him as the champion. But what did you guys think about this mixed tag? I thought very similar to the one at WrestleMania with Hunter and Steph against Kurt and Ronda. I thought the female heel did a great job in kind of building the heat.
Well, you were pretty high on Maurice in our text thread.
I was being facetious. Okay, just so we're clear, when I text you things like Maurice confirmed better than Okada, I'm really not being serious.
Are you kidding me right now? You weren't serious? This just changes my entire opinion of you, Kyle. No, it was pretty funny, but no, Maurice was really good in that heel role, I thought, and I think I think you probably predicted too. Maybe we all predicted that Miz and Maurice were going to win this match. Maybe Justin didn't. I don't remember.
Nope.
Sorry, Justin. But now they won, and Maurice got the pin on Brie.
Kind of a clumsy finish with the rollover. They didn't do that real clean.
Yeah, very clumsy.
Yeah.
I don't even know if she was able to hook the tights, to be honest with you. I think Brie, bless her soul, kind of sold it. Like, hey, she did the old traditional baby face, grab at your tights. Hey, they were being pulled. But I don't know if Maurice actually did, though.
Well, we did get to hear that Brie Bella theme song briefly tonight, guys. Plug your ears.
Some people like that, by the way.
Oh, God.
I almost screenshotted my Twitter feed at the time because there was you with the gif of Jim Carrey plugging his ears, and then there was a person above and below you both celebrating the theme.
Oh, are you kidding me? I never seen anything positive about it. Next time you're going to have to screenshot that. No, it was.
Does sound like It does sound like every song on the radio I don't like.
Maurice's theme song is so much better, but we didn't get that one very long.
Yeah.
With the French lyrics, but
yes, yeah, the Maurice thing, yeah, they did bring that. Yeah, I forgot in the what is it? Just the last couple weeks they brought back Maurice's theme song. What a tremendous tune that is.
yeah, no, this was a pretty standard, like you said, mixed gender match where you got the heel that doesn't want to get in, and I like the finish. I think it worked well. I think that's who should have won. Yeah, it was a little clumsy, but yeah, it is what it is.
And Brie busted Miss open hard way.
Oh yeah,
Brie Bella confirmed as having the second best punch in WWE behind Roman Reigns.
So, are we headed for this feud ending?
Well, okay, let's talk about that. The finish here obviously sets up Brie and Maurice at Evolution, but I think what everyone wants to talk about is Bryan and Miz. And we know they're working in Australia, and the winner there is the #1 contender for the WWE title. I suspect the winner of that match will beat AJ Styles, possibly at SmackDown 1000, a show which is not getting a lot of talk or chatter, whatever the word you want to use. And let's break it down the way it can go. All right. If Miz beats Bryan, okay, he beats AJ. The setup is then something, I think we went over this on the pre-show. Okay, Miz can say, I will never defend this title against Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan enters the Rumble. He wins it. You set up a WrestleMania match. But that would require a lot of booking discipline from a company that does not have a lot of booking discipline. I mean, can they really stretch this thing all the way to WrestleMania?
Well, if you ask Bryan, they cannot.
Okay, yes, he did and we joked about that. So allow me, and then there's the idea is if Miz pins Bryan again, if Daniel Bryan loses, for what would be like a 4 straight pay-per-view, do you risk the fan base getting a little fatigued? And what do you do with Daniel Bryan between then and the Rumble? There's a lot of shows. This company runs a lot of major shows now.
Yeah.
So you can't just put them on ice till the Royal Rumble. So let me present this alternate thing. I don't know if you guys are going to like this. I don't know if the listeners will like this. But again, I'm putting my WWE hat on here and trying to think like that. For, they've got, like I said, they've got a lot of shows. How can they tell different stories to fill all that time? Okay, let's say Daniel Bryan beats The Miz at Australia. Let's say then he beats AJ Styles in a baby. Let's say that's how they hype. I could see them hyping regardless if it's Miz or Bryan. Honestly, don't you think that kind of is a logical hook for SmackDown 1000?
Yeah.
A WWE title match.
Yeah.
I don't think they're bringing back a lot of celebrities for that. So I know Dave Bautista hasn't gotten the phone call and he's not very happy about it.
The rumor was The Rock was maybe going to be there. He should be there if he can.
From what I hear, it's The Rock's show, but I don't know if it will be on SmackDown 1000. He worked Raw 1000. That's when they did the CM Punk heel turn.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say Daniel Bryan then beats AJ Styles for the title at SmackDown 1000. Good. Let's say it's a great match. Whatever. Who cares if it's a great match? Daniel Bryan's the world champion. What you then have is kind of the Daniel Bryan everyone wants. He's going to have a bunch of heel contenders lined up for him. They could still do another Miz match to blow that feud off. You got Joe in the mix, Nakamura, Randy Orton, possibly Rusev if they turn him heel. And remember, Rusev pinned Daniel Bryan on TV once. Joe beat Daniel Bryan on TV once. All of a sudden, look, I'm not endorsing everything they've done, but maybe what they've done makes a little more sense all of a sudden. And again, we're getting the Daniel Bryan that we all want, which is him having great world title matches and winning. Now, where they would go for WrestleMania then, I have no idea. I don't know if they know. I think a lot depends on The Rock, quite frankly, with the WrestleMania card.
Mm-hmm.
There are rumors that The Rock might actually wrestle and then would be willing to put over Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
So I don't think they have Daniel Bryan's WrestleMania slot. They probably have ideas, but it's in no way finalized. But I can kind of see that second scenario taking place.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to complain if we get Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles for the WWE title at SmackDown 1000. That sounds really good. I'm going to dig my heels in, though, and I like my scenario from our preview show better. but I would not complain. If that happens, that would be great. If you didn't hear our preview show, my prediction was Joe ends up champion to get the belt to Brian. Brian beats Miz. Brian becomes champion after he defeats Samoa Joe, a heel, and then Brian holds the belt and he faces Styles at WrestleMania, which, yeah, I'd be a fan of either one, honestly. Either one would be really good.
I just think that when you look at it, well, I guess you and I are saying the same thing. You and I are both saying Daniel Bryan's, they're not waiting till WrestleMania to give the title to Daniel Bryan.
Right, yeah.
Do we all agree? I mean, Justin, what do you think that when you look at all these cards they have to fill, they probably need to go to Daniel Bryan sooner than later because, all right, like, I just don't think they can stretch Ms. Daniel Bryan out till WrestleMania.
Well, my theory was always that it's a keep away game between those two. And it's not like there's enough talent to do that, to have Miz beat. Like, my theory was that Miz is going to be champion. He's going to be the one to beat AJ Styles. Mm-hmm. And then because he beat Brian at SummerSlam, then they beat them tonight. I assume he's going to beat him at Showdown. Why does he have to give him another shot?
And that's the Rumble scenario then that we kind of mentioned.
And they should have enough talent to feed Miz until Brian wins Rumble and they face each other at.
But here's the only issue with that. There's a lot more heels at the top on SmackDown than baby faces. I mean, really, if Jeff Hardy's out for a while taking injury, does SmackDown even have a top babyface male besides Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles? I don't know if they do.
No, not really.
Ty Dillinger.
Yeah, no, it's, I guess if we would have rewound here and you told us before WrestleMania last year when Brian got cleared that you'd go a year without him winning the world title, we'd say that's probably a mistake, right?
Well, here's the thing. I feel that, like, they've done the Daniel Bryan conquers the world storyline at WrestleMania before.
Yeah.
And maybe they just don't want to do it again. Although I feel it would be, even if it was like him challenging the Miz at WrestleMania, that's different than the last time when it was like him versus the Authority. But I think it's one of those two. I think it's either they stretch Miz Bryan out till WrestleMania. I just have my doubts whether they have that kind of discipline, or they have, Bryan win it a lot sooner and he just kind of defends against the heels and they come up with something else for Mania.
Yeah, I'd like to see him get the title soon. Don't get me wrong, Daniel Bryan's always going to be special and incredibly popular with the fans.
But they're risking fatigue. They're risking fatigue.
For sure.
You could, I sometimes roll my eyes because there are people like the first time he lost, people are like, I can't believe it. Daniel Bryan, it's like, come on, folks.
Well, he hasn't done really anything like all that special since he's been back, unfortunately. And the Miz feud we've all looked forward to for a couple of years, and it's been decent, but I feel like they got to do something more significant with him soon.
I think it's been good, the Miz feud. Certainly with the benefit of hindsight, I think the stuff between Mania and the Miz feud is underwhelming. I mean, Big Cass is not in the company.
Yeah.
I guess it was kind of cool that Brian beat a big guy clean twice. We always say, Vince McMahon loves big guys, and he didn't love that one apparently.
Oh, he was on his way out the door. So.
Yeah. And then, but that Bludgeon Brothers thing was bad. I mean, there was no value to that. I mean, it takes a lot for me to say that something had no value, but Team Hell No versus the Bludgeon Brothers, in retrospect, I'm not sure what that did for anybody. And again, the Bludgeons got hurt, so that kind of sucked and was unfortunate, but they probably weren't holding the titles much longer anyway.
Got Glenn Jacobs elected Knox County mayor, Kyle. That's what it did.
Well, I think he was already a shoo-in for that before.
Yes. Yeah, he was. No, I agree. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'd like to see him take a more premier spot on the roster soon and not wait till WrestleMania, but there is all kinds of directions they could go with this feud. So I think a lot of what we've laid out here would all be enticing and fun to watch. We'll have to see what they do. The only match we haven't talked about is the Raw Women's title. So this was wasn't like SummerSlam where we were recapping what, like 13 matches or something like that. This is a much more brief show.
You know, it's funny. It's not really funny, I guess. It's just a talking point. I liked the show having fewer matches, but it still kind of dragged a little bit. Toward the end, I was kind of like tapping my foot, you know, knowing we're going to do this podcast, which I love doing, by the way. But I'm like, God, you know, like, I hope we're done by 10:30, this pay-per-view. And what did it end by, like 10:45 maybe?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's pretty crazy. 7 matches took 3 hours, 45 minutes.
Yeah. A lot of filler. A lot of video packages. A lot of video packages, which are always good.
But. Yeah. But there is a question, you know, do you need them really once everyone, like, you're selling a storyline that people are already here for?
I mean, they drag out stuff. Like the entrances are really long. The videos, the hype videos. My wife mentioned right at the beginning that this Jeff Hardy entrance was like the longest entrance in the history of time, which I don't know if she's ever watched an Undertaker entrance, but Jeff's entrance was pretty elongated. No, it's a 7-match show plus the kickoff show match, but they still almost filled up 4 hours. So,
well, the kickoff show even was done before. I mean, the 7 matches didn't start till the pay-per-view didn't start proper till 7. So, you know, they had 7 matches go from 7 to 10:45.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They had the 1 kickoff show match and then the 7 matches on the pay-per-view. So, so the Raw Women's title match with Ronda Rousey defending the title, her first defense since defeating Alexa Bliss at SummerSlam. And again, it was kind of what they needed to do. Longer match than maybe some people had anticipated. But the finish, I mean, no issues here. I thought Ronda did really well. I know Kyle liked Ronda's hulking up moment.
Yeah. I mean, well, is it fair? I don't mean this as a criticism by any means. Am I out of bounds for saying that this was almost worked like a Hulk Hogan match? You know, Ronda, you know, the Superwoman, she sold a little bit. They did a lot of parlor tricks with Alicia Fox and Mickie James interfering. And by the way, I think the crowd kind of didn't know how to react because this was the first time Ronda's had to sell for a long time and work underneath. But, you know, Hogan would do that like when he got into his pattern. And then, you know, Alexa, the heel, got overconfident. And Ronda, like, you know, Hogan always had, we all know what the Hulk up is. And Ronda had her moment where, like, she made the face, you know, and then Alexa reacted like, by the way, I forgot to unplug my Alexa, and now we're going to get that all the time. But
just say Bliss.
Yeah. When Bliss, we had this issue at the SummerSlam one, I think it was, or one of the pay-per-views. But, you know, Bliss is like, oh, you can't beat me. And then she's so scared of in the face. And then they go right to the finish. It was fine. It was what it needed to be. This, again, was one of 2, and the Orton Hardy were the only blow-off matches on the show. And this feud needed to be blown off. I don't think anyone really, although Alexa learned the magic of the armbar in the last couple of weeks, I don't think anyone bought her as having a chance to win.
No, I think what they did with the injury angle with the ribs was great, and it made it more believable that she was hanging with Ronda throughout and getting the shots in on her ribs. I thought the facial reactions really sold the match, especially in the finish there where Bliss was all up in her face and doing the grr thing, and then Ronda snapped on her, and Bliss
that kind of was funny actually, the grr, when she was mocking the grr.
Yeah, right up in her face, and then she started like laughing, and she turned that into like the heel laugh, but I kind of felt like maybe that was kind of a real laugh. She couldn't keep a straight face there. And then Ronda like flipped and did the Hulk up moment, and Alexa got that really scared look on her face, and I thought that was all really good, and pretty much did what they needed to do. There was some thought maybe they'd set up something for Ronda Evolution in this match, but that did not happen.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I think that's a talking point that we should explore. It's going to be Ronda and Nikki. We all think that's what's been reported is going to be the main event of Evolution. How do they get there? I kind of think it's going to be very WWE-esque where Nikki just comes out and asks for the shot on Raw. And again, that Australia show, they're already scheduled to team Ronda and the Bellas against Riot Squad, I think it is.
Yeah.
So they can't have like Nikki turn before then because it would make no sense. So I would assume we'll get to Australia and then maybe like afterwards Nikki turns and works that match as a heel.
Yeah, I could see that. Justin, what did you think of this match?
It was what it needed to be. I thought it was going to be a lot shorter, but it made sense the way they extended it. You guys kind of covered everything. Yeah, it was fine.
I don't know if you guys saw this. Alexa tweeted out a pic a few days ago of her hanging out at the Performance Center, and you got to think it was to work on this, right?
I did see that. I didn't really put that together, but that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I saw, I was like, oh, I wonder if this match maybe there is going to go a little longer than expected, because the match at SummerSlam was pretty short.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so.
All right. Well, we already covered the main event, guys. So
yeah, and its booking still sucked.
The finish, I mean, for what was a really good pay-per-view, the finish of that main event definitely left a lot to be desired. For some people, I'm not one of them, but for some people, it's really going to sour them on this pay-per-view because that's how they went off the air. But man, if you look at the undercard, a lot of good stuff here to like, and some things I want to rewatch personally.
Yeah, from WWE's perspective, they're going to be like, well, we got people talking about Brock, and there were people chanting Suplex City, bless their souls, when he came out. But yeah, for me, hour and 15 minutes after the show ends, no, still don't like that finish at all. As a matter of fact, I quite hate it.
Justin, you want to see Brock Lesnar back on your television screen in the wrestling world?
No.
What is San Antonio thinking? Don't chant anything. Don't give him any reason to bring him back anytime soon. No, I hated it. Didn't like that finish either, but I still like the pay-per-view quite a bit. So
yeah.
Any other closing thoughts or any other topics we haven't hit on you guys want to talk about before we sign off for the evening?
I think I'm good. Usually I'm not at a loss for words, but I have very little to talk about.
I think we hit up pretty much everything I wanted to get out. So, Justin?
Yeah, no, all good here.
All right, so that was WWE Hell in a Cell. We will be back on Thursday evening for our typical weekly show. It'll be episode 75 of Top Rope Nation. If you like the show and you want to join us live on Thursday evening, we'll be back to our weekly routine, which is a little bit different from the pay-per-view week. So our pay-per-view pre-shows and post-shows, we do put on YouTube live for absolutely everyone that wants to watch them live with us. But our typical weekly shows are Patreon only for the live video broadcast. We will put the audio out to the world the next day. But if you want to join us live each and every week for the video broadcast, get the show before everyone else, head on over to patreon.com/Top Rope Nation, and you can join us live this Thursday night. We usually record around like 9:45 p.m. Eastern time. So it'll be on Thursday night, and the audio will drop on all your podcasting feeds on Friday morning. So with that said, guys, check us out on Twitter at Top Rope Nation. I'm Ryan Drosty here again for Kyle Ross and Justin Joint. We'll catch you guys next time. Have a good Monday.
Peace.
Good start to your work week.
Ah.